And we are back, and we just finished watching 2022's Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, rated PG-13 with a runtime of 2 hours and 6 minutes. This is currently streaming on Disney Plus, and I love this. This is director Sam Raimi's foray into the MCU, and I think he did a fantastic job. This has a screenplay credit to Michael Waldron from a character created by Stan Lee and Steve Ditko. In this particular story, Doctor Strange wakes up from a dream that maybe isn't exactly a dream, and we're introduced to a character named America who seems to be able to navigate the different multiverses with ease.
Well, no, she doesn't know how to do it. She's falling through it by accident.
But I think, well, towards the end, no, we're not giving out spoilers, right? Because this just came out on streaming. Yeah. Although it was in the theaters. I mean, I think it's still in the theaters,
You can't talk about any major details. You could say, okay, we're going to talk about spoilers later.
Oh, okay.
But not right off the bat.
No?
God, control yourself.
In the blurb, we say this review has spoilers.
Okay, well, then save it for later. Like,
are we going to cut this out?
Some organization is needed.
All right. Well, why don't you talk here? Because I don't know. I feel like
Doctor Strange must help a young girl whose ability has basically gotten her lost in the multiverse. She ends up with him. There's something hunting her that wants to rob her of her powers.
Oh, very nice.
And there you go. That's the premise of the movie. She finds Doctor Strange, and he must help her. A lot of crazy magic, monsters, zombies. What else was going on? Oh,
demons.
Like demons. Characters that you probably didn't think you'd ever see. Some pretty grisly deaths. This was directed by Sam Raimi. This has his mark. Has his mark all over it.
Yeah,
all over it. You will see shots that you're like, oh, Evil Dead.
Drag Me to
Hell. The stuff that Raimi made his hallmark.
And you get to see the car.
And
briefly.
Sam Raimi's car appears as well, floating in the air.
I'm going to go around the table and get impressions. Gigi, what did you think of this film?
I like this movie.
You did? Did you have a favorite character?
No.
No. Did you think that without giving spoilers, were you satisfied with the ending? Not the Easter eggs, but the ending, the story's ending.
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. What about you?
I like this movie too. Classy as always. Yeah, I like this movie too.
But I feel like you're gonna.
Yeah, there is one but.
What is the but?
There are certain things that Raimi does that I feel they're kind of like how could I put this? They belong in the 90s.
What do you mean?
There were certain certain choices that he made that would be fine in a film from the 90s, but not really in today's day and age. Some musical cues I noticed took me out of it. I was like, what the hell am I listening to here?
You're listening to Danny Elfman is what you're listening to, who's not different than...
Is that Danny Elfman?
Yeah.
That was in
his name?
We saw Snow White playing in the background.
Oh, yeah, that was there, but that really has nothing to do with anything. I'm just talking about there were certain musical bits in there that were just like...
It was Danny Elfman. Does Sam make a movie without Danny at this point?
I don't know, but I'm not talking about the whole score of the movie. I'm just talking about certain parts that just seemed... It kind of like was like, whoa, why am I hearing this electric guitar wailing? Mm-hmm. And it was just like, it was like 90s or early 90s. It just felt a little bit out of place, and it took me a bit out of it because I'm like used to a certain aesthetic, and especially with these Marvel films. Mm-hmm. And this just had it just threw me out of it a little bit.
I didn't. Well, I think I
it's
think
funny
I
because
know
you're the
one
one who always complains about music.
And it's funny because I didn't pick that up. I think I picked it up at the end-ish.
There was a bit. At there was a
bit
tiny,
at the end.
It was that was tiny. But
I don't remember it before.
There was like a bit further in like I would say in the middle or the earlier part of the movie where it was like really egregious.
Okay. I didn't. You know
like,
what? It's funny. It didn't register with me. I was really, really consumed in the film. I thought that
like,
the.
You know.
I don't remember this at all, but I really enjoyed this movie.
No, I'm not saying I didn't enjoy it. I did enjoy it. I thought the story was really good.
Yeah.
It was Like I was kind of surprised at how quick they just went into it.
Yeah.
It was just like, oh wait, there it is,
Right out the gate.
Yeah. They ain't holding anything back here.
Yeah, it's funny because I really liked the first Strange movie. It was like, and it's funny because I feel like it's played on TV recently, I guess because of the release of this movie. I haven't watched it from start to finish since we saw it in the theater, but I remember enjoying it a lot. And I think one of the things that I liked about the first Strange was that it was a Marvel movie, but it didn't feel like a Marvel movie in that the aesthetic choices in that first one were really just, it was different. It was different. And some of that sort of bled into this one. The opening sequence
there was
is
interesting
like the dream
visuals.
Yes.
There was interesting visuals, but it was a Marvel movie. There was nothing.
Yes.
There was nothing so bizarre about the visuals of that one.
No.
That
I'm not saying that. It's
this
just
doesn't look like a Marvel movie.
No. I'm not saying that.
This one had visual choices that I was like, this doesn't really look like a Marvel movie.
Yes, it's different than your most Marvel movies, and I would even say that about the first Strange. Although this one was even more than that, than the first one.
Yeah, this was a Raimi movie.
Yes, absolutely. Everything about this, it was like, to me, this felt like Sam Raimi makes a superhero movie. This didn't feel like a Marvel movie.
Yes.
So, but I'm saying that to me, the first one had a very different feel to it. There was something very trippy and otherworldly about the first one where you don't get that in other Marvel movies because I guess of the source material. You're dealing with this magician in a way, right? So, but in this one, it's like to the max, right? Mm-hmm. And I enjoyed it a lot. I loved it. I turned to you at one point and I was like, I can already tell that I love this movie more than the last Spider-Man movie, which was good, but it didn't feel like the first two. Like the first two I loved, but that last one, it was just okay.
Yeah, it was.
I don't know if they're trying to recapture like that whole Endgame feel.
No,
that final battle thing, but
I don't think that. I just feel like the last Spider-Man, it didn't have the heart that the first two did.
No, it didn't.
And also, it was like, come on, how many times do we have to fix Peter's mistake?
There's that too.
That
was kind of annoying.
Bothered me. It was like it's always Peter's mistake that spurns it, and he does it twice in that movie.
Yeah. All right, back to this film. I was gonna also add that I thought the story, without giving spoilers, worked really well. There is a part of this story that's, as you get towards the end, things are, I guess, explained or revealed. And it's not any less devastating than in other stories with a certain character, I feel like. I don't want to say too much because, again, we're going to try and keep this somewhat spoiler-free. Olive G, what did you think of the film?
I thought it was good.
Yeah, what did you like about it?
I don't know.
Did you like the way it looked?
Yeah.
Was there any scenes in it that you thought looked really cool?
When they're going through the things.
The portals.
When they're traveling through the portals and they see all that weird, crazy stuff.
Mm-hmm.
That was very
I
cool.
also like when you-know-who went through the gong and like you heard the bones cracking.
Yes. That felt very Raimi-esque, for sure. Mm-hmm. That scene itself felt very, very Raimi-esque. Did you have a favorite character in this?
No, not really.
Not really. Okay, fair enough. I think we're going to try and keep this short because I think if we spoil it, if we talk too much, we're going to wind up spoiling it. So I'm going to get numbers. Gigi, 1 to 10, what would you give this film?
8.5.
8.5. What about you, Olive G? 1 to 10, what would you give this film?
I'd probably give it like a 7.5.
7.5, 8.5. What are you going to give it?
I would give this film, I'd give it a 7.5 too.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
I'd give it an 8.5.
All right. 7.5 is not a bad number.
No, it's not, but I feel like this movie's better than that.
All right, I'll give it an 8. I like I said, there's just certain parts of it that just felt dated. Like I love Raimi stuff, but some of his I guess techniques and gags are a little bit dated.
I don't know. I think it worked.
It all worked when you wrap it up, but there are a couple of times in there where I was just like, maybe because I'm just too familiar with his stuff. Mm-hmm. It's just like, okay, I've
seen this already.
I've seen this, yeah.
I get what you're saying there. I mean, to me, it still worked, and I think it was interesting to kind of.
It's like his signature dominated the story in certain parts.
Yes, his aesthetic. You know what? I didn't have a problem with that. I actually enjoyed it. I think it was a nice departure for this character because there is. It almost lends a little bit of levity, even with all the.
No, I have no problem with levity and whatnot, but like I said, I've loved all his stuff. I've seen a lot of it. He relies on a very tried and true toolbox of stuff, and this is all in there.
Okay,
all of it's in there, and sometimes it's like a little bit
too much.
So that's why otherwise, it's a great story. You see some interesting things that you wouldn't expect to see. There is some, like, pretty brutal killings in this movie.
Yes.
Especially for a Marvel movie.
Yes.
I mean that one guy with his head.
Yes.
Well, two guys with their heads.
And also.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't see it.
You don't see that, but
it's implied.
It's implied that something pretty gruesome happened there.
To one character.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. I also like that they've incorporated other Marvel characters into this. We won't name any, but if you've seen it in the theater, you know, and if you haven't, I'm sure you've read about it or seen it on social media, but we'll still keep the mystery here. So I thought that scene was really great. And I really liked even the parts of it that were more fantastical. I think that really worked a lot in this movie's favor. So what did I say? 8.5, 8.5, 8, 7.5, 8.5, right?
Yep.
Okay. It's just dropped on Disney Plus, and if you haven't gone to the theater, I highly, highly, highly recommend going over to your couch and seeing Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, currently streaming on Disney Plus. Again, it's rated PG-13. There is incidents of peril and implied violence. It's not gruesome like Hostel or anything like that.
It's not like Hostel, but there are some pretty, like, two people in this get killed very badly.
Yes, but it's still a PG-13 movie.
Yeah,
I don't
PG-13.
think we let our 10-year-old watch it. I don't think younger than that. There might be some scenes that are a little too frightening, I think, for younger kids, but
you were fine, Olive, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's pretty squeamish about gore and whatnot, so she was fine.
Yeah, but I think there were intense scenes. I mean, nothing over the top, but if you're a parent,
Yeah, I mean,
kids,
Raimi,
if you have a 5-year-old, you shouldn't be watching this.
Raimi was in like horror movie mode here.
Yes,
so
yes.
He was pulling all the spooky camera tricks.
Yeah, and even one of the characters with the eyes and stuff, and a
lot of jerky movements and people popping out of nowhere.
Yeah. So there is that. There's no cursing. I think Strange says the B word.
He also says ass.
Oh, ass isn't really a curse word, but I think you don't hear the B word. But just to kind of put a disclaimer for anybody who's got younger kids, this might not be for them, but I think 10 and up would work. Mm-hmm. Okay, that's it from us, and we will bid you all a good night.
Good night.